Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan, and damn, is it a difficult time, Adam Caplan, to be an Eagles fan. I tell you, it's just a rough time.
Why?
Not trying to start off negative.
All right.
I know that a lot of fans are – all right, so you got a segment of fans who are disappointed.
I know where you're going. Go ahead.
All right, yeah, you got a segment of fans disappointed by the trade down. But you also have a large faction of the fan base that has either A, just come to grips with it. Maybe they didn't love it, but now they see the value. Or B, there are some people that thought it was great value and loved it from the start. But you would think universally everybody would just be like, if only Kyle Pitts and Ja'Marr Chase could just not blow it away at their own 40 to make us all feel better about things.
Well, it would be great if they both, for Eagle fans, if they both went before 6.
Yeah.
That way, oh, gee, Howie was right.
That's what we have now.
Or if they're both there at 10, what the hell are you thinking, Howie? Fire him. The fans, like, this has been the cottage industries to get Roseman out of there from the fan base. I get it, folks.
Right.
We're aware. We're not dumb. We have a pulse. We see what's out there. We're not fans. It's not our job to get people fired. We have our criticisms. We crushed the 17 draft. A buddy of mine said, he goes, dude, the 18 draft was good. I said, no, but I said, the problem is, why did he trade away 5 picks?
Yeah, 5 picks is not good.
Keep your damn picks, dude.
Right. 2 years in a row, by the way.
You're right. 18, 19. That's not,
not good for a team saying it needed to turn the roster over while trying to win.
Get younger. So they have 11 now. But anyway, you're right. Look, I saw it. And when Jim Nagy from the Senior Bowl, former scout in the NFL, put the times up, I was doing a lot of stuff on Wednesday. So I wasn't watching the, I taped both broadcasts, but I was in pro days. But we're going to get into Pitts with Greg Cosell, but I got stuff I'm holding, which an NFL offensive coordinator gave me, and his study of Pitts.
Oh, boy.
He ain't getting anywhere close. Let me tell you.
He's not dropping. I know some people think there's still a chance he might because of the nature of the position that he might drop.
He's not a tight end,
5,
brother.
6, 7, 8.
He ain't no tight end.
Yeah, no, I know that. But I'm glad you brought up Jim Nagy, who, for those who don't know, he runs the Senior Bowl. It used to be Phil Savage. He is now the director of the Senior Bowl. He does a fantastic job. I mean, really, Phil really brought it to the limelight, got it sponsored by Reese's, and then Jim has done an excellent job.
God, I miss Phil, and Jim's doing a great job. I've never met Jim, but Phil and I worked together at ESPN, and I love that they got, this from going there. I love that they got former scouts or personnel people to run it because, and the access that you and I miss going there. So my friend Tony Pauline, Tony. Yeah. Tony from he's with Trey Wingo now.
Football Network. I want to say.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Football Network. Tony just called me last week and he said, "Man, you should have gone." I'm like, "Really? I thought we had no access." He goes, "Well, it was tough because you had to wear a mask everywhere, but the thing was there was like no media there." I'm like, "Oh, now you're killing me, man."
Yeah, well, it would have been. I mean, that thick Florida heat, although maybe it's not so bad. And I mean, Mobile.
It's this time of year. It's 60s and
that's
rainy.
True. I remember some days it could be like 45 degrees, and other days it'll be like 72. And
exactly, beautiful.
You can only pack so much, right?
And you can never predict the weather there. You're right. It's so bizarre. The weather there in January is, as you said. In fact, I remember some days it was in mid-30s and rainy.
It's like spin the wheel on the temperature.
Exactly, and the agents from out west would come in and not pack for it. I'm like, you've never been here before? Don't you look at the forecast? Don't you look at an app?
Yeah.
Anyway,
and I miss the Creole food, but to getting back to Jim, why it's important what you said. Jim had the hand timer on LSU,
so cool.
So he hand timed Ja'Marr Chase, and so what's really important, Adam, is that as you'll notice, and to go back to last week where you had Micah Parson and Jason Owa at Penn State run ridiculous time, sub 4.4. It seems like everybody and their mother is now running sub 4.4s. And I know a lot of people are like, what's going on here? Is it because the combine has a laser timer and now people are using hand timers? So I think these are all good questions. And you wonder, should you take some of these times with a degree of skepticism or a grain of salt?
Point. Yeah.
So I reached out to about 3 or 4 personnel people who I know are on the pro tour. Okay. And most of them said that, you can't fabricate a 40 time. It is what it is, what the clock says, but you just have to be careful about who's reading you're accepting. Like if you see on Twitter and it might be a player's agent.
Oh, God, yeah.
But a guy like Jim Nagy is obviously he's got no skin in the game. He's happy for everybody. Yep. And so the 2 things that stood out to me, though, Adam, is that the personnel people told me is that you have to remember that we're now in March and all these guys have been training. We're at the end of March. Most of the time, these guys have already ran a 40 up in Indianapolis at the end of February, beginning of March. So guys have had about 2, 3 to 4 more weeks of quote unquote training by running this 40 than they ordinarily would have. And you do see a lot in normal years that your 40 time at your pro day is a little faster than your Indianapolis time. So I thought that was kind of an interesting point, is that the scouts are seeing these times as realistic, and they're attributing it to the athletes having a little bit more time on their own. Most of them are down south where the weather is good to train and run these good 40s.
Yeah, and honestly, you're always going to go by the tape, because what happens sometimes is, like, I'll give you, and I hate to do this, but it's the truth. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside 40 time. Let's say it was a 4.45.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
I remember it was, he ran a good 40. So did Jordan Matthews, by the way.
Right. And by the way, neither guy ran to their 40 time. Why do you think Jordan was moved to the slot? That's just, he didn't play fast.
That's correct.
Now, short area, he knew how to get open. Tough, smart, physical. I get that. But you got to play. The tape tells you how fast they play. When teams cannot evaluate 40 times properly, they fail. And that one, the Arcega-Whiteside miss, in terms of understanding his time speed to his play speed, what a miss. What an absolute miss.
I think what has happened somewhere along the way, Adam, is that we've seen some pretty good stories of guys who did not run blazing 40s who have done well in the NFL. Anquan Boldin constantly comes up as a guy in that regard. You know, Greg Cosell talked about that on the show.
My guy, right? And Greg did mention this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he went to your school. Let's go. Who am I thinking of?
Oh, like every single Penn State wide receiver ran above a 4.4. I mean,
no, this guy didn't. And this guy was bad. No, this guy ran a real slow 40 time, but he was still a second-round pick. I just gave it away.
Was a wide receiver?
Yep.
Second-round pick, wide receiver, ran a slow 5. I can't think. Who?
A-Rob.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? Here's the thing, though. Allen wasn't like considered a speed receiver at Penn State.
I got you. Sure.
But yeah, that's a good point. It's a good one. But so along the way, many guys have succeeded despite running slower than expected 40s. Yes. But that has created now, I believe, among fans, who watch the TV and listen to people like tell the great stories of this, a perception that 40 time doesn't matter at all. You constantly say 40 time doesn't matter. 40 time doesn't matter. No, it still matters. When you talk to NFL people, what they want to do is be able to watch the tape, watch the 40, and make sure that there's a correlation there. To know, as you said, that the actual time speed is reflective of the play speed. If not, as you said, then there's an issue, and you figure out, is it just straight line speed this guy has? You have to go into it a little bit further. But for people who think 40 time is irrelevant because guys like Anquan Boldin or Robinson or others have succeeded in the NFL, that's not entirely true also.
Yeah, and Cosell on our new draft show called Inside the Draft with Greg Cosell. Greg did mention Michael Thomas, and I asked him about it. And it's so what it is route running. Okay. Now the other part of the 40, the 10 is super important. That tells you short area quickness.
Mm-hmm.
Allen Robinson's 10, okay, is phenomenal.
Right.
Like off the hook, great. His short area quickness. You wouldn't think, because he's a big guy. I've never understood that one.
Well, that's why he's been one of my favorite. That's
players.
Why he's one of the best in the league.
Yes. Yeah. I just didn't. Like, you wouldn't think it. You would always think the small, quick guys
mm-hmm.
would have the slot receivers that have the 10, and the long speed guys would be the bigger guys. But that's not, or the small, fast guys, Tyreek Hills, so to speak. But it's really interesting to delve into this show, folks. It is right now probably going to be our top interview show that we've done in the 4 years. The traffic that we've seen, and it's a learning experience. Geoff and I learned so much from that show, and the comments have been beautiful. We really appreciate it, and we're doing it for you guys to help you learn the game. That's why we do it, and this is only the first, by the way. Wait to hear the next one.
Yeah, next one's going to be even better. Also, Q&A. Jason Avant he told a story about. Actually, I like this about their show. They talked about their pre-draft experiences, mm-hmm. and they're really fascinating, especially Quentin Michaels being an.
Wait to hear these. Yeah, I heard it Wednesday night. Wait till.
I mean, Jason, who was not a speed receiver at Michigan, was talking about how hard he was so consumed with running a sub 4.4.
He ran a 4.7. Did he run a 4.7?
Yeah, he ran a like a 4.6 or a 4.7, right?
Yeah.
He trained so hard. He said the only time he ever broke 4.4, it was like 100 degrees out. And everybody was all loose hipped and hot and sweaty. So everybody was gliding that day. But no, it was really funny. But he had some really good stuff to say about. He made a great point that there are wide receivers who could drop 10 to 15% of their passes, but if they run a sub 4.4, the NFL is going to salivate over them. But there are guys like Jason who could catch balls, he rolls out of bed and catches balls over his head, right? Or on the ground. I mean, he had to catch from Donovan for all his career. So he can catch wayward passes.
Ground balls. That's not nice. But
the fact look, it's just true. But the fact that
I get it.
The fact that he never ran anywhere close to a 4.4 is why he went to the 4th round.
But before we move on here, the key for Jason and guys who don't run fast is how are you going to make the next level? It's not about dropping in the draft. It's about, okay, I know I'm not fast. What's it going to take for me to get to the next level? Route running. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
The
guys
also. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And technique, which goes
hand usage, being able to separate. I remember Jason and I worked together for the American Flag Football League 2 years ago. Though Jason, again, we know he's not fast. But the funny thing is, he got open repeatedly. And I get it's flag football, but it's unbelievably competitive flag football. The best flag players in the world are in this league.
Yeah, these are great athletes.
Right. And they're great at the sport, at the sport.
Correct.
Okay. And Jason was killing them with technique. It's just as you said it. Hands.
Right.
Stop.
Eyes.
Right. Exactly. Like he set him up. Right. It was the coolest thing. And I was calling the games. I was doing play-by-play. And I haven't seen Jason play football in years, and I was just marveled because and the funny thing in there, you got to go both ways sometimes. And in he was gassed; he couldn't do it. But he was unbelievable at that. And you got to know what you are as a football player. When you know, like, look, man, I ain't gonna make it if I got to, like, I ain't playing on the outside because I don't run that fast. How am I gonna make it? And being nuanced, as Cosell talks about, you have to be nuanced in your route running, and Jason obviously was.
Very much so. I kind of have an appreciation for those types. I mean, the guys who can combine speed and precision route running, I think of like a Marvin Harrison, and they're like unicorns. It is amazing to watch them. I mean, I would say a lot of guys in the NFL these days don't combine both, right? I mean, there are some who are really good at contested catches, back shoulder, using their body, making physical catches, but they on in-breaking routes, maybe they're not as good, right? And
watch Terry McLaurin. He does everything. He is
special. Those Ohio State guys are they're clinical, man.
Oh, Mike Thomas, right. I mean, oh my God, is he good? Paris Campbell, if he ever could stay healthy, Mike. Sure. But definitely I need to remind you, or one of us will ask Greg about Marvin Harrison. You nailed that one. Greg has such appreciation for he and Peyton Manning together, and remember, they didn't switch sides. Reggie Wayne was on one side.
Yep.
Harrison was on the other. They never switched sides. Peyton wanted a clear picture. He didn't want anyone in motion. It's so bizarre. Paulian talked about that. Bill did on our one of our interviews with him.
Right. Yeah, T.O., I should give him a shout out. He played here. I mean, he was one of those who combined speed, strength, physicality, and great route running and precision route running to put it all together. When you have that kind of player, it's really special. I mean, I'm trying to think of guys in the league right now that I can put in that category where they have every single check mark. I mean, I haven't studied a whole lot of DeAndre Hopkins, but to me, he makes a lot of his catches along the sidelines using his body. I mean, I don't know if he runs the entire route tree the way Marvin Harrison did. But I'm sure there are a few. Oh, you know what? Adam Thielen does a really good job of that. Oh, Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs might be the entire full package.
He actually might be the NFL's best route runner.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is.
I mean, any route. Any route.
He's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right?
And he can go get it. For a guy his size who's not like 6'2", he can go get the ball too. So those guys they're unicorns and they're fun to watch. Speaking of guys fun to watch, let's get into this quarterback picture here for the Philadelphia Eagles, because it seems like I feel like the talk of the city is, are the Eagles committed to Jalen Hurts or are they not? Were they trying to get Zach Wilson? What does that say about Jalen Hurts? Obviously, we have a big contingent of people who just want to throw everything behind Jalen Hurts right now. But then also, Adam, with all the stockpiling of draft picks, there's There's this, are you trying to use these picks to get a Deshaun Watson or a Russell Wilson? Is there somebody else? It seems like, I think we can, before we get into any one individual person, this is about as murky as I can ever remember in quite a while, a quarterback picture for the Eagles being at this point in the year. Maybe up, well, I guess you can go to 2016, but even though you knew they were going to get a quarterback by now because they had traded up to 2, and you knew Sam Bradford was the starter if the guy that they drafted wasn't ready for any reason. So really right now, this is the murkiest that it's been in
and remember, Peterson was asked in the spring press conference or whatever after the draft, oh, you know, I know the media asked him this question, so he had to answer it the way that he was asked. You know, about could Carson be the 3? Oh, yeah, he could definitely be the 3. He might be inactive some games. He goes, we'll see what happens. We know how that ended. Mm-hmm. Chase Daniel was on the roster. But it's funny how things work out. And you're right. You know, you fast forward now 5 years from that time. I mean, of all the years you covered the Eagles, Kevin Cobb was the presumed starter. They gave him the 1-year extension for $10 million. Mm-hmm. Can you remember a time when they really? Right now, obviously, Hurts would be the starter, but it's not guaranteed. Like where you didn't really know for sure.
Yeah, I would say when Chip Kelly took over the team in 2013, was it? That was his first year?
Yep.
He did pretend to have a quarterback competition going on between Nick Foles and Mike Vick, and I give him a lot of credit. He pulled that presentation, that show for a good 2.5 weeks to the point where Vick started to get really annoyed by it. Because as not everybody knew, Michael Vick re-signed because he was told he was going to be the starter. But as far as the public knew, there was this like, you know, you remember how training camp went? Like a couple of days, Mike Vick was number 1s, and then a few days later, Nick Foles was running with number 1s. And it was one day they did a press conference together where they had to say how much they loved each other. Nick Foles, oh, Mike Vick, I love him like a brother. Mike Vick, oh, Nick Foles, we love each other. Hey, it's a great competition. We're making each other better. And deep inside, Mike Vick is like, when is Chip Kelly going to end this facade, right? I know I'm the starter.
I do remember that. Now you mention it, I do. You know, Chip obviously was an enigma, but we know the players wound up not liking him, a majority of them.
Right.
Chip, you know, just didn't connect and relate with people like Doug Peterson did or Andy Reid did. But
yeah, did I ever tell you the story about how
which one?
I got Mike Vick on record to talk about how annoyed he was about this?
No, because as you're saying it, I vaguely remember. Go ahead.
Yeah, this was a good story. I like telling these stories in the pod. People like this. So we're like 2 weeks into that training camp, and again, this facade of a quote unquote competition is going on, this ruse. And one day after a hot practice, you got everybody at the NovaCare surrounding Michael Vick, and they're asking him. I think it was right before the first preseason game, Adam, and they hadn't yet named who was going to start. And so Vic's taking all these questions. What's it like competing with Nick Foles? And you're 2 weeks into camp and you got the first, and you could tell if you were in that pack, you could tell he was starting to get annoyed, right? Like, how much longer am I going to have to answer these questions? So I actually caught the tail end of that press conference. So as he walks away, I kind of like just idled up next to him and then said, Mike, I'm sorry, I missed a little bit. Do you mind as you're walking? And we weren't really supposed to do this, but you know, I got away with it. So I said, you know, mind if I walk with you for a little while? He's walking toward the cafeteria.
Oh, the walk and talk. I love the walk.
Yeah, the walk and talk. That's
love the walk.
By the way, that's like been banned for the last, I don't know how many years, but either way. So we're walking and talking through the NovaCare complex on the way to the cafeteria. And I'm like, it sounds like, you know, you're a little frustrated by this, that you're tired of being asked questions. That's fair to say. And he said, the coach needs to come out and say, who's the starting quarterback? I'm paraphrasing here. He said, wow. This can't keep going on. Everybody knows, everybody in this building knows who's going to be the starting quarterback. This has got to end, yada, yada, yada. So he says all this. I'm like, you're comfortable with me going with that? He says, print it, go with it.
Whoa.
All right. Now I did something really stupid after that.
Uh-oh.
That I think I'm a human being, and I, as a reporter, I don't
you're alive.
Right. All right. I went back to the cafeteria. Right. He's sitting with Derek Boyko at the time.
Uh-oh.
And I walk in and I say, Mike, you know, I'm working for Comcast Sportsnet, NBC Sports Philly. Now it's called. I'm like, when I write this, it ain't going to be small. Like everybody's
you're going to blow it up. It's going to blow up.
Right. So I went back to him just to say this. I said, Mike, I'm totally cool with printing it because you told me to, but I just want you to understand that. Like, I'm going to print exactly what you said. And he goes, I told you to print it. Go print it. Right. I'm like,
whoa.
All right, here we go. So I
did it? You know, I'm assuming it blew up.
It blew up. I mean, of course, you know, when you're at Comcast, then it becomes now I got to do like 3 TV appearances.
Yeah. Oh, I remember talking to you.
What was it? The lunchtime show on the web, breakfast
at 12 o'clock, right?
Yeah,
I remember
lunch break. Yeah.
I would run into you down at NovaCare, and this is I don't know, 12 or 13, 11, 12 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
I said, hey, what's going on? He's like, you look really tired, and I said, what's going on? You would tell me how like you had to do this show, that show, that show, that show.
Yeah, it was you know. Hey, listen, sure. I loved it. I'm not complaining. At
one
point, it's like I need to sit down and write a story.
Especially when you put a scoop out.
Yeah.
Especially if you're at ESPN or Comcast, you got to do every single show. So they had Daily News Live with Michael Barkan.
Right.
The lunch, was Rhea Hughes doing the hosting?
Well, by then I think it was called Philly Sports Talk at 5.
No, the 12 o'clock show.
No, it's called Lunch Break.
Yeah. Or was it Rhea?
I forget what it was called. Yeah, Rhea host. Rhea Hughes was the host.
Yep.
And it was called something Lunch Break or something.
Yeah, I did a show. Yeah, I did that show. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's amazing, man. So that was
20... Oh, and by the way, Pro Football Talk ran with that thing immediately.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So I'm like, all right, I get, you know, and some people say, you know what, you already did your job. He told you to print it. You don't have to go back to him and try to, you know, try to convince him to change his mind. I wasn't doing that. I just wanted the man to be aware that when I go forward with this, it's going to blow up. And he was fully aware because he said it for a reason. And wouldn't you know, a couple of days later, Michael Vick was named the starter.
Oh, before we move on, did Boyko say anything to you?
No, I was shocked. I thought Boyko, I thought I was going to get a text. I thought I was going to call, be like, what are you up to?
I know.
He wasn't there.
I've got the evil eye. I know. That's my guy, but I could tell you, anyone who's covered the team.
Yeah.
You've gotten the eye, you've gotten the look, you've got the, come here.
Yep.
Like, you're going to detention,
or you get the phone call, the text or the phone call.
Oh, it's never good when you see I won't give away the number, but the first 3 numbers, but I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, it's like being called to the principal's office, except you don't do anything wrong. You don't work for the principal here.
Well, since we're telling stories, here's my first question.
Well,
actually the only question, because I'll give you mine. What was the most egregious issue you had with either Andy, Derek Boyko, who's now with the Bills, or anyone, got in your grill and said, listen, man, you can't, that we got a problem with you. Was it?
No, I don't know.
Anything you could tell, anything you could talk about?
All right. You're putting me on the spot. I'm going to tell the story.
Give me one.
I'm going to tell the story.
Give the folks one.
All right. So
how about mine? You want me to give you mine? What do you think?
I got my story. I just didn't know how much of it I wanted to volunteer, but I mean, there's no harm.
Okay.
All right.
Was that one we know, because I was shocked that you didn't get a talking to.
But you did the right thing. I'm talking about one where I did get a talking to. I got a call. I got a call. I wrote a story about I can't remember which draft it was. It was a good story. The intent of my piece was to write a story about a draft being a pretty good draft. It was a couple of years after. So I interviewed Howie Roseman for it. I wanted obviously his take on it.
Yeah.
Right. And there was one line in the story that basically said that once Andy Reid was fired, right, and Howie became the top guy as far as personnel, I said he then became, in the fans' eye, public enemy number 1 for anything that's going wrong. As I say that to you right now, I don't really feel like that's such a bad thing to say.
It's
true. He became public enemy number 1 in the fans' eyes. Apparently that didn't sit well with the powers that be, and they thought that was a little strong. What do you mean public enemy number 1? I mean, what are you trying to say? He's a criminal? And I'm like, I think people who read what I'm writing understand that I'm not saying that this man's a criminal or like right up there with Osama bin Laden. I think we understand that in a sports context, context is everything. I'm writing a story about a draft that's positive, and I'm implying that when you're at the top of the chain now, people look to you to either praise or to say things are wrong. I think it's pretty clear here then, but for whatever reason, the powers that be did not appreciate that phrasing, and it was communicated to me in that way. And I disagree with them, but you know what? We all live. We're fine now. We've moved past it.
Yeah.
So that's mine
are more mine are more terms of that type of situation. What you're talking about, something I reported, something I said, they didn't like my tone, or being in a restricted area where I'm not supposed to be, which I must have set a record. I never got yelled out for it, but I got the come here, or what are you doing? Because before texting, you would only have email on your phone, and this is at Lehigh. There were whatever there were, 3 fields, 2 fields, I don't remember. But there was restricted area. You cannot walk in between fields. You're not allowed to. You have to walk around.
That's right.
So I was reading my damn email, and I didn't notice I was in a restricted area. And I look up, how you pick your head up to see where you are. And I see Derek Boyko folded his arms like this, if you watch this on YouTube. I'm like, God damn it. I'm such an idiot. Well, why wouldn't I pay attention? So it was just the little stuff. Or if I put an Eagle scoop out and I went to to NovaCare and where we were with the work area, in the back, behind PR.
Yeah.
Before they went to the trailer. And they would be watching me. If I had something on the Eagles, they'd be looking at me like they wouldn't say anything. It was just the body language, they didn't like it, but they know they couldn't say anything to me. Just no different than what you were talking.
Right.
You felt like okay, you got something to say to me? Like, you got a problem? Like, what's the issue?
Yeah.
Like, what's can
you know
I just
what?
do my
I
job
forgot.
and not get feel like I did wrong?
Right. I forgot the whole Deshaun thing when I wrote that, he was on the ropes and was going to get cut.
That's another. Now that story you've told me privately.
I got yelled at for that too.
Ooh, that was an interesting story. Well, we'll save that for the next time.
Guess who was right?
You.
Deshaun got cut. Exactly.
Yes.
All right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, hey, listen,
anyway.
That's the business. We take the shots. We know where they're coming. No complaints here. Interesting because we talked about Vic and Jason Avant brought up Michael Vick and how it was difficult for him to come to Philly with coming out of jail, right? With the legal thing and how people felt about him. And, we've talked in this podcast in the past recently about Deshaun Watson, right? And the Eagles being interested in Deshaun Watson. And now, obviously, even in the days since we last did our last podcast, I mean, there's more allegations that have come forward. And now Deshaun Watson's attorney has come forward with a list of massage therapists who say they've had great experiences with Deshaun Watson. I don't know if you had a chance to see Jenny Vrentis' story in Sports
I read
Illustrated.
It. Yep.
Very, very graphic, detailed explanation of a situation in which Deshaun had with a massage therapist in that area. And this massage therapist, she has, at this point of us recording it, no skin in the game as far as she wasn't suing him or anything. She just felt like telling her side of the story of a interaction that when you read it just looks gruesome and reprehensible. So everybody knows that the facts are out there. So Adam, we know the Eagles are interested in they have an interest in Deshaun because they're always interested in a player of that caliber. This is hanging over them. So we're asked about, what's going on here. And, just from my own poking around, I can say, like, if something were to happen to a trade for Deshaun Watson involving the Eagles, what has to first happen is that Jeffrey Lurie has to be okay with this. And for Jeffrey Lurie to be okay with this, it's not just do you thumbs up or thumbs down, Jeff. No, Jeffrey, because we know how active Jeffrey is, right? He's going to have a team of people, researchers, security people, doing all of the legwork that needs to be done, leaving no stone unturned, so that Jeffrey can make a decision based on the facts that he has accumulated. And that's got to be step one before anything else can happen. I mean, you know how Jeffrey is and how he views public perception and how thorough he is on things like this. He is not going to do anything unless the information he gets makes him very comfortable with Deshaun Watson's character. And only then, right? That's my take on this, on the scenario and the situation. That's a big first step.
I agree. Now, to take it forward, what you would do is, because I've talked to teams that have interest in him, and the way it works is you you have your own security team. You've got your attorney or attorneys. You have NFL security you talk to. You have your own law enforcement sources, as one team told me. It was explained to me. We're just asking, hey, like, it hasn't been out there. Are you guys interested? And they were saying this one team said they did the research on it because this one team is looking for a quarterback, but had not been mentioned in all the rumors. The Eagles have been mentioned, obviously. It's been out there for a couple weeks. The Panthers, a couple other teams. This one team was not, but they were doing. This one team said they were talking about internally, and they were discussing about how if they would do anything, and they were not. But the guy told me, he goes, "This is the way it would work if you do this," and it was just like I outlined it. NFL security, your own security team. You could send people down to Houston if you want. Talk to people. Your law enforcement sources, believe it, yes, folks. Every NFL team,
no doubt about
it. Most, not all, but most NFL team security guys came from law enforcement. Not all, but a lot of them do. And even if they didn't, they have law enforcement sources, so they could get to the bottom of a lot of stuff. So that's the way they would do it. You make a great point about Jeffrey Lurie. Look, I remember being at Jeffrey's press conference when they announced the Vic signing. And I believe this, and I looked right at him. I was sitting in the third row as a dog enthusiast, as my wife and I are. I know you are. And I could see it on his face how after what Vic did, or he's alleged to have done, and which was proven, he went to jail for it. It crushed him, but Andy Reid explained how, then his feeling on it. Joe Banner obviously had to okay it as well.
Right.
And you make a great point, because I remember how thoughtful Jeffrey is, and he loves dogs like we all do. And I think he said, correct if I'm wrong, did he not say no first and then he changed his mind, or they kept Andy maybe?
Yeah, I thought he was saying at first it was like, come on, what do you think? No. And then, he had to have the longer the conversation went on, there was some explaining. Yeah.
So again, I know that Watson stuff is completely different than Vic stuff.
Yeah.
But the stuff that has been alleged against Watson is very serious. Let's not undermine that. It's very serious.
Very.
We don't know what the truth is, but you got to take the accusation seriously. So I don't see how any way that anyone could trade for him based on the accusations. But if you're a team that's interested, you've got to get to the bottom of what's real. Obviously, if you think even one of them, the accusations is real, you're out.
Right.
And
I also think you have to be careful of, even if your research tells you something, the NFL may see it differently than you do. Look at the Ezekiel Elliott situation, where he was never even charged for anything, but the NFL still suspended him. So it's very risky, on top of everything involved, to give up draft capital and try to trade for someone, even if your information is he is not what it is alleged to be, because the NFL could swoop in and say, oh no, we think he is, and he's now suspended for X amount of games. So I agree with you. The one thing we can't answer, at least I don't think we can answer, is how long this process is going to take.
Yeah, exactly that. And we're now 4 weeks away from the draft. You have to know who your quarterback is. Let's get this back to the Eagles.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts is in the second year of his 4-year deal. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, purple, whatever. He was never drafted to be the starter, folks. I know some people have cursed me out because of this. I don't know what I'm talking about, folks. You think I'm making this up?
Yeah.
They like
back
the player.
You up on it.
Like
I've been told the same thing. I can back you up on it. It's true.
I mean, I don't know what.
And it also doesn't mean that you and I don't think Jalen Hurts can't be a good player, or we wouldn't be happy for the Eagles. It's just the reality of the situation. You need that base knowledge to understand why the Eagles are doing certain, why maybe you see them, a report of them interested in Zach Wilson, or why maybe Deshaun Watson, or who knows with Russell Wilson, or whatever. We just want people to understand why. And that's why,
Yeah.
So maybe they stumble upon it. Go ahead. I'm just gonna say, maybe Jalen Hurts takes the reins for this year, has a really good year, and it changes their minds. That's fine.
And by the way, for the record, I'm not a fan, but I'm with those who say I love to see Jalen Hurts play this season, so you can find out. But I also I understand from a club standpoint. I know the way it works. Jeff and I have covered this league now for over 2 decades. I totally understand when you want to know who your franchise quarterback's going to be. Watson's a guy without the off the field issues. What's the accusations? He clearly is one.
Oh yeah.
You have to investigate. You have to look into these things. Okay. They're not. I could tell you, they're not interested in Sam Darnold. They're not interested in Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay. Not that anyone is it. Jimmy Garoppolo's situation. Think of it, folks. He's missed 23 games in 2 out of the last 3 years. Okay, you're not going to be interested in a guy like that.
Right.
Sam Darnold has got his 5th-year option after the draft due. He's coming off a bad year. I mean, let's call it like it is. I've talked to so many people about him. His 19 tapes intriguing, 18 tapes intriguing, 20 tape bad. So obviously, you're not going to be interested in guys like that. Russell Wilson.
I would like to see. I'd like to see Sam Darnold moved for one purpose only.
All right.
Because I wonder if he could have the same type of renaissance or revival somewhere else that Ryan Tannehill got as soon as he got away from Adam Gase.
Sure.
I mean, I think that would point blank tell you that there was something about Adam Gase's coaching that inhibited these quarterbacks from being what they should.
I think it's fair. I think it's fair. You make a very fair point. You're not the only person to bring that up. It's out there. It's true. Gase did not do a good job last season. Their offense was extremely painful to watch. If those of you saw the All-22, you probably wanted to break your computer, your tablet. But then there's a Russell Wilson one. We know how badly they wanted him in 2012, and that's something they have to live with, that they thought that he would drop to them. I think they would tell, and this is part of why they trade up for Hurts. Now, they trade up for Hurts because they didn't want to go through the Russell Wilson situation. This is a guy that we know Jeffrey Lurie liked, Howie Roseman liked. Doug Peterson, as I understand it, at the time was on board with it. As a late 2nd round pick, they were going to take him earlier than they would have normally. Their grade was not 2nd round. Their grade was later. But we talked about this a year ago. It's not a secret. They didn't have a 2nd round grade on him. But you have to do that to get the guy. Like I don't remember if they had a 3 on Wilson or not, but the fact that what they were saying was, and Howie talked about this, Roseman did with John Clark after the draft, about the Wilson situation, and they're not going to go through something like this again. They wanted to get a guy that they really like. But my sense is their thought process was they had extended Wentz's contract $32 million a year the year before, in the spring of 19. They did not want to invest money in the backup quarterback. They like Hurts' upside. He gives them a little change of pace to what Wentz does. Both mobile, but Hurts obviously is more of a runner. And they liked a lot of things about him. He had really good intangibles. They thought he could be an outstanding backup. And you had mentioned, and it's so true, look what they got for A.J. Feely. A second round pick for a 5th rounder.
Yep.
Unbelievable. So that's why you do it.
Well, and we'll see. We'll see. He may have the opportunity to start and either establish himself as that guy or just increase his trade value if the Eagles chase after a bigger fish next year, which they will have the ammunition to do. You wouldn't give up the same amount of draft picks at the moment for Russell Wilson. Let's say he was available.
Well, Wilson's much older.
That's what I'm saying. Would you give up the same amount for Russ as you would for Deshaun, or
great question?
So older. He's much older.
But here's the issue. Russell doesn't have the off the field accusations.
I know. Well, no, I'm kind of asking that in terms
of value, what would you have to give up?
Yeah. Like, would you still give up? Would you give up 3 firsts for Russell Wilson?
You have to. That is the going rate. That's
what they want. But should it?
I've been asking about Wilson and Watson for 2 months now. Everyone I respect tells me that it's 3 ones. You can't. But as you and I have talked about with this situation with both guys, before the Watson off the field stuff came about, you can never get anyone like either guy in the draft. You could give up 5 first-round picks. Well, you could be Nick Caserio, the GM of the Texans, but you're not replacing that guy.
Yeah,
26 years old.
I really like Russell Wilson, but I mean, to give the same number of first-round picks for Russ at 31 as you would give up for Deshaun Watson,
I wouldn't. You know why I wouldn't do it? Exactly why I wouldn't do it. Because by the time you get good, he could be 34, 35.
Yeah.
How much longer is he going to play?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Plus, I mean, I don't know. Is Russ? I don't want to say is he meant for this place, but he's clearly.
He would love it.
In prominence, though, he's wanted more.
He wants to throw
in things going on. He wants to throw.
My scoop. I had to put a pretty good scoop out last the Thursday or Friday before week one.
Mhm.
All it was is that the let Russ cook thing is actually he had made it clear, and so did some people with the Seahawks for years to Pete Carroll privately. Hey, listen, analytically, this is what the numbers show. We need to come out throwing. And Pete's a run first guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to do it.
Pete whipped out the old win-loss record that he's got and said, analytically, I'm
right. Well, Mike Zimmer's the same way. A lot of these guys, they have the run first guys. It's hard to convince them. But he gave in, and the numbers were ridiculous. Russell was going to set an NFL. I'm telling you, he was headed for 55 to 60 touchdowns.
Yeah. So what happened? Why did they go back to running the ball?
Two things. I was told that teams of Tyler Lockett and Metcalf crushing them. So they started playing cover 2. They kept everything in front of him, and Russ will not check the ball down.
Oh, where have I heard that?
He was holding it. What's that?
Where have I heard that one before?
Yes, exactly. Wilson and Wentz. Yeah, they want to be
perfect for
guys.
Philly. Yeah. Wow.
But Russ wants to throw the football, and analytically, that matches up what Jeffrey Lurie in particular, and obviously Howie Roseman believes in it. You got to, if you're going to work in the front office there. That's what Jeffrey believes in, and it would have been a great match because Russ wanted to throw the ball, and he did, and he was doing great. And then he had an awful, not a totally bad second half, but his last 4 to 5 games were so painful to watch. The Giants housed him, man. I don't know if
I remember
Patrick
that game.
Graham, the D coordinator, put one together, one of the all-time defenses that he changed his defense that week and crushed them.
Wow, interesting. All right, well, let's move on from quarterbacks, as all of that will just be dangling out there for a while. Yeah, no, really interesting.
Oh, by the way, real quick, it's a great contract to get initially because, as you know, when you trade the team that has the player that drafted him or signed him to a contract is responsible for paying the signing bonus, and you don't get the proration; it stays with the club.
Right.
So Watson's only making $10.54 million this season.
Yeah, the Eagles would have to restructure that.
Well, I'm sorry.
I said the Eagles would still have to restructure it.
Oh, you had to go there. Right? No, they put dummy ears on it. No,
of course.
But no, here's what happens: 22. $35 million is fully guaranteed, but guess what? If he gets suspended, the guarantees would void.
Yeah.
23. Now here's the problem. His 22 salary. Let me see. He's got an advance guarantee on it. It doesn't matter. We'll get into
we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, if this happens, we'll be all over, and I'll get something clarified. I'm looking at language which was sending me, and I got to ask a cap guy.
Yeah.
Or someone does contracts. Hey, could you explain that there's some interesting language in his contract? So it doesn't matter unless he comes here. But it's amazing to me that this Watson, everything. It's like if you're a team that wanted Watson, it's like you couldn't make it up. The stuff that's come out because there are so many. I'm telling you, teams thought that they could just continue to call Nick Caserio and he would bend. And he wasn't bending, but I'll tell you what, with all the stuff that's come out with Watson, and did you see Albert Breer's interview or hear or read it?
I did not.
Yeah, basically, I mean, he's like, listen, we'll do what's best for the football team.
Yeah, I did hear that.
That's not, I mean.
By the way, those were the exact words Chip Kelly used at the owners meeting when I asked him if Deshaun Watson was going to, if Deshaun Jackson was going to be back on the football team.
I remember that. And I knew it's funny I didn't know that was you had asked it. And that was after the 13 season, right?
That was after the 13 season. Yeah. After his first Pro Bowl year.
So he was unbelievable that year under Chip.
Sure.
And I remember, okay, so as you asked it, I remember he's gone. That's it. In fact, that was my first year at ESPN. I remember doing Sports Center talking about your question. Again, I didn't know it was you. We were talking because we were doing like a review of owners meeting stuff in my notebook. I'm like, this is ominous. A coach could crush that off, like could kill it off and say, no. Listen, here's what I really meant. Hey, listen, if Deshaun doesn't do the right thing, we're going to cut him.
Right. And
then you know what would wind up happening. Chip, did I tell you about the time when I asked Chip? It was his first owners meetings. So he got the job. Typical of Chip. And I don't know if he's telling the truth or not. I guess I have to take it at his word. So, Coach, I'm just wondering, did you really want to become an NFL head coach? And he looks at me and goes, no, I never wanted to be one. And I'm like, I didn't know. I was so dumbfounded. I'm like, how do I even answer that?
What do you
I didn't have a response. I was like,
so what are you doing here, buddy?
I was just like, Chip and I had actually, that's another one. My Mosher's got more stories. I got wrestling stories for May after the draft, and I got my best Chip story.
Listen, Chip was such a lightning rod, so he would.
I know. I like the guy. Look,
yeah, but
I don't hold grudges. He and I had a couple small issues, but
these breakfasts that you would do at the owners' meetings, they would start at like 7 a.m. And you'd go into a room. There was NFC coaches Tuesday and AFC Wednesday. So it would be NFC day, and it's 7 a.m. and all the coaches go to the buffet table to get their plate filled. And so Chip goes.
There's a great breakfast,
like 3 straight times, right? Because every year he was doing something crazy, right?
And Belichick will never show up. By the way, Belichick never shows up.
He shows
one
up
time
late.
He did.
No, he's late, right? I think it's always.
Or he doesn't show up at all. Yeah.
So Chip sits down with a bowl, with a plate full of food, and unlike every other NFC coach, there's so much Eagles media there that there's already people there at 6 a.m. The whole table's filled up. You got cameras all around. So he sits down with his plate of food and he goes, all right, I guess let's get started, right? So that was his first mistake. He didn't even take a bite of his eggs or his cantaloupe or whatever you get at these breakfasts. Adam, the man did not have a second for the whole hour that you get to put any food in his face. It was just question after question after question. And I'm like, what a rookie mistake. This guy should have eaten first.
To give you an idea, let's say that the round table has got 10 seats.
Right.
They're all taken off, and you get there early, okay? Like Jeff McClain will get there early, the beat guys, Tim McManus, whoever. And then there's there's 3 people standing behind each person because it was Chip's first owners meetings, the 13 one. Because Chip was a phenomenon before they ever played a game. Who is this guy running this crazy offense, And Chip was like, Nick's, it was actually above that in terms of interest.
Mm-hmm.
People didn't know anything about the guy. As we would later learn, boy, he kept a lot of stuff from the media. He was married once, all that stuff. But
yeah, he was a man.
It was bizarre. It's funny you bring that up. I remember that in 2013, like, okay, this is what I'm in for with this guy, But
yeah. Meanwhile, you got whoever the coach of the Arizona Cardinals is.
It was nobody
sitting at a table. He's on like plate 5. He's on his 5th coffee.
It's so funny.
Looking around.
That reminds me of Ron Rivera, right? His first owners meetings in 11. It might have been in New Orleans. I don't remember. But nobody cared about the Panthers.
Right.
And it's me and like the beat guys. And I've never met the guy in my life. And I just got the Peter King seat. Peter King always gets like the first seat. He always bogarts it.
Yeah.
And Peter's a friend of mine, but it would always annoy the heck out of me because I'm like, how the hell did he do that?
Mm-hmm.
So he would nudge in and get it, and I got it. And I'm asking Ron after question after question after question. I was asking about Cam Newton. It's before the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm asking him, hey, he said something he shouldn't say. Remember, like, Michael Vick told you something, you ran with it. And I said, Coach, are you sure you want me to run with that? Say, repeat this because I'm going to use it. He said, I don't care. You could use it. Ron didn't know that you got to be diplomatic and not give the media a lot of stuff. And it was just, It was a good quote, back then. But anyway,
I always felt bad for Andy Reid because, he's, Chiefs coach, AFC breakfast. Like Andy's used to having like 2 writers around him,
always his eggs, right?
City. But then again, the whole Eagles mob on AFC day, when you don't have your own coach to speak to, you got to go get Big Red's opinion on everything going on with the Eagles, right?
I would, the coaches that I got to know over the years, whatever traveling, owners meetings or Senior Bowl or Combine, like you'd meet them and stay in touch over the years. If they became a head coach, I'm there, man. I want to get a question in.
Oh yeah.
I miss that, man. This is 2 straight years. Yeah. You don't get access to that breakfast, man.
Wow, it's a great thing.
A lot of news comes up. By the way, a lot of news comes out.
Yeah, definitely. Andy always, he saunters over to his table in his bright yellow Tommy Bahama shirt. And he sits down, and it's not even the look on his face. Like you can already tell there's a look of exasperation.
Yeah,
like,
he's
freaking serious. I got to deal with all you guys. But then like the 1 or 2 Kansas City writers who think that they're going to get like an awesome hour alone with Andy Reid look at us like, what the hell are you guys doing here?
Right. I know we get kind of.
What do you think about this? And Howie this and Jeffrey Lurie that. Are you and Big Red's like, can I get a sausage link in my mouth, please?
Andy didn't like to make news, but he would do it when he knew he was doing it for purpose. So Todd Herman's was coming off maybe not a great season.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him, I said, Coach, Todd's up for a contract. And he looks at me. And Andy rarely criticizes a player publicly. He's like, he's got to stay. He was like, he was using me because I asked the question. He goes, well, you know what? He's got to stay healthy. He's got to do this. And I was like, he never does this. I was shocked. Because he was up for the list of players that were up for extension. He was one of them.
Right.
And I was like, Andy, as you well know, because you cover him like a wet blanket, man, he doesn't do that stuff.
No, he likes to play it tight to the vest. He likes to wear his Tommy Bahamas at the owners meeting.
Yep.
He has to see us.
Yep.
All right, let's there are a couple of free agent items I want to get to. And of course, as we do, I have some irony that I have to tell you about. But first, I'm going to tell our friends to please go check out phlsportsnation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all of our Philadelphia professional sports teams like nobody else does. They are for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. So go ahead and check them out, phlsportsnation.com. And you can also check them out on Twitter at phlsportsnation. We'll pause real quick for another word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. All right, if you stop into Sky Motor Cars, let them know that Adam and Geoff sent you. You'll get a great deal. All right, irony is this, Adam. I just happened to be doing some research on old ITB podcasts around this time last year. Right. And one of our better pods, when we really started to see hit some growth, was a podcast that I wrote the title. It was called Suspect Web Reports, Innuendo, things like that. And we kind of went off the rails on people who aggregate stuff and completely get stuff wrong. And lo and behold, exactly a year later, as I was looking at this, we have to address somebody taking what you said.
I'm not going on
direction of it.
All right, here's what happened. So if you listen to our last show, I just talked about how I see Jalen Reagor being used. I see him as a Z receiver who also sees some time in the slot. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing a young Instagram news aggregator, Caplan, it said breaking news on his Instagram, because they tag you on it.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is it? What? Because I'm getting a notification. What is this? And I look at my phone. I'm like, oh, I'm like, I didn't say that.
I know.
Thank God. And I give the guy credit. I don't know who he is. I don't know. He works for one of those Eagle fan sites.
Yeah.
4th and John.
Yeah, he clarified what you
good job by it. Because the first thing I did when I worked for fanball.com in 2000, I was one of the first bloggers, I guess you could call them back then. Because you and I are journalism people. Mm-hmm. So I never misquoted anyone. Because you know why? Real audio back then, 20 years ago, for your old schoolers like Geoff and I. And I'd replay the press conference. Whoever could have been. Mike Holmgren said, the Seahawks head coach, and I would actually use his quote. And then this is where I helped my career, I would take what he said and analyze it. That's what you should be doing. If you're a blogger, first rule of journalism, get it right. You don't have to be first. Get it right.
Yep.
Do not misquote somebody. Get the quote correct. And then give your own analysis. I'm good with that. But
the way stuff goes viral, by the way, it's even more important to get it right now than even 10 or 15 years ago.
I was so pissed off last night. I'm like, are you bleeping kidding me?
Right.
I know exactly what I said. And I appreciate the guy who took my quote and got it right. And I made a joke out of it. I'm like,
I saw that.
Yeah. Someone misquote, someone doing a misquote. Yeah, I'm shocked. It's so last year.
The funny thing is, though, real quick, Adam, is that
sure.
I mean, for our listeners, and most of them probably already knew this, the plan was to get Jalen Reagor into the slot even going into last year, his rookie year. We reported that they wanted.
What was your report last year? Go ahead.
That they wanted, he was going to start off learning the Z, right? That was the plan, but they wanted to be able to move him into the slot in certain formations and packages because they loved his short area quickness, his burst over the middle, his ability to run after the catch, the way he's built kind of like a running back. And they wanted to get the ball in his hands fast, not just always downfield. What happened was he got hurt. So that stunted his development, right? Remember, for training camp. And then Deshaun Jackson got hurt, which left a void at the Z. So Jalen had to play a lot of the Z. And then Fulgham was able to play the X, and then Ward played the slot. But then Jalen got hurt again, right? Because he broke the thumb. So he got hurt in camp, he hurt in thumb. So every plan that Doug Peterson had for everybody last year basically got ripped up by week 3 and thrown out because of the injuries to the offensive line and receivers. But it's not, saying that a lot of wide receivers will move at times into the slot. That's not news, and nor is it breaking news.
No,
that they plan to try to
the
get
kid
him
doesn't
in.
know football
Yeah.
and he doesn't understand what we're saying.
Right.
It's like, go back and listen again, man. If you have a question, as I said last year, when I let it loose, I got super pissed off. I kind of have enough. I've had enough of this stuff of people not getting the story right. It's like, I understand why some people in our country have a problem with the media because they slant stuff.
Mhm.
And I get it.
That's true.
I get
Yeah.
it. And I want to talk about politics, but I totally understand that.
Yep.
And then when you can't even get someone quoted correctly, you can't analyze. It's like, and I get these are kids. Okay. I get it.
Right.
It's like Eagles fan site news 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on I don't know what I never heard. I blocked the kid because I was like, I don't have time for this nonsense.
Right.
So I just blocked the kid.
Right.
Oh, anyway, so what the hell was I going off a year ago about? I don't even remember.
Not even worth it. I have probably the same thing. Just, people, it's usually aggregating, people aggregating what they shouldn't aggregate.
I don't even remember, but I do know. No, I do know this though. I had problems with these so-called draftniks over the years because what they do is they bury players.
Mm-hmm.
They don't spend the time like you and I do. That you and I have spent our own money to go to events to learn the game.
Mm-hmm.
They think they know everything without trying. Listen to Greg Cosell. This is the perfect example. Greg explains right when you think you don't know.
Right.
And these guys, these kids who have never gone to practice, never tried to befriend somebody who works in National Football like you and I did. Okay. When I wasn't even credentialed, I went on my own.
Yeah.
And put our sweat and our blood and our tears, so to speak, and all the stresses we've been through.
Yep.
And it just would bother me when these kids this kid, he sucks, he can't play and all this stuff. I'm like, you don't know anything. Who have you talked to?
Right, exactly.
And then I had a couple coaches reach out to me over the years about stuff I said that was wrong when I was starting the league. Before, obviously, before Twitter and text, and they would call me and said, "Hey, did you write this?" I go, man, call me first. And I learned. Listen, I learned a lesson. Getting not having proper information when you're doing analysis. So I learned the hard way. Look, make a call, man. Do some research. Email Greg Cosa. Call somebody.
Sure.
Don't make bleep up. I mean, you don't know what you're talking about. Learn the game first before you watch all 22. The NFL tape. Pay $99 or whatever it is, like Geoff and I do.
Hey, there are people who do that and do a nice job because they're better research and they know what they're looking at.
Yeah, but be careful if you're going to go all in saying this guy can't do something. Who do you learn the game from? The term is evaluate the evaluators. That's the term.
There you go.
Anyway,
speaking of making a call, Eagles, they need some help in the secondary.
Yeah.
Are you aware of any calls made to? I think you said it during the live stream that there was some interest in T.J. Carrie.
Yeah, I'm told that T.J. Carrie, who's a corner these days, I talked to a coach that worked with him years ago. He actually started in the league at free safety. This is the scouting report I got. Super smart, high character guy. He's not a blazer. He's not fast.
Right.
He's just a smart. He'll be in the right place. He's a sub package player only. You could play him in slot. You could play him outside. He's a third or fourth corner. At this point, now we're 3 weeks into free agency. He's not going to cost you more, maybe a little bit more than the veteran minimum, maybe $2 or $3 million.
Right.
But here's the problem: Eagles, they got to sign.
They got to figure out a way to take that and divide it over 10 years.
No, but here's the problem: they got to sign their own rookies. How the hell would now? You and I have said the last show, there's no way in hell they're going to have all 11 picks.
Right.
So that's something else to think about. I had never really put it in that context where. Are they going to trade a bunch of the picks just so they know they have to they can't spend the rookie pool? Like, I don't know what.
Well, also, I know you're supposed to keep a certain number of dollars for rookies.
Yes.
But then once those rookies are added, because you're only on the salary cap for the top, 51,
yeah, top 51.
So once you add those guys, it bumps those guys who are like 43 to 50. Let's say you bring in 8 guys and they make your team. It bumps those final 8 down. And so it's not exactly the full 8 million, right? Because once you get those other 8 who are bumped off, then you're not paying their salaries.
Right. And remember, you don't have to clear money for those guys until you sign them.
Right.
That's why you'll see reports, team restructuring to be able to, you'll see some stuff come out in May. Geez, these guys sign now like 2 days after the draft, but you'll see some stuff come out every year where team will cut a veteran or two because they got to be able to sign the rookies.
Right. All right. So the search goes on as the Eagles try to figure out.
Yeah, they got to add 3.
So Carrie's still out there though, but
I'm sorry.
Carrie is as we
he visited the Saints last week.
Okay.
He's one of the better corners out there, but you got to understand what the guy is and isn't. That's the real scouting.
Definitely.
He's not a starting NFL corner, but he's a high character guy. In fact, we had him on NFL radio last year. He was phenomenal. He's also, I think, done the broadcast boot camp, maybe. I just know he's really a sharp guy. And he's been with the Raiders, the Colts, the Browns, I think. Anyway.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. We're going to move on. We'll talk a little bit about some of the recent developments here with the NFL as far as OTAs are going to, it sounds like there'll be, well, we'll get into it in a second. First, I want to tell everybody that 68 teams started that tournament and only the best have survived. I had Illinois winning it all, Adam.
Did you?
They were out by round 2, I believe. So at this point, I didn't think Gonzaga was going to do it, but it looks like they're in a pretty good position to do it.
I always pick against them to it's funny. Illinois. Illinois is a team, as you know. Remember Lou Henson, the Ludu?
Of course.
They would choke a lot. I'd pick against them. I used to go out with my friends from school. We go to the back in 89 or 90. We go to the Stardust Hotel in Vegas, and we bet on the NCAA tournament like crazy. The best experience. Oh my God, it was unreal. The excitement for being there for the first 2 days in Vegas. You don't get any sleep.
Oh, I'm sure.
I've
never been there, but that must be amazing to watch the tournament.
Unreal. And you got no money. You take your life savings. I mean, really, this is how dumb I was. I was probably making 10 grand, 15 grand, whatever, 20 grand a year. I take 3 or 4 grand with me, and I just bet and bet. And remember, this is before the internet. Right. You didn't get any information. You didn't know what you were doing, but it was fun.
All right. Name a random Illinois basketball player. University
Kenny
of
Battle. Kenny Battle.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Because I went to Ohio U before that, and he was with Northern Illinois. He's a lefty who got drafted by the Celtics, maybe.
Sure. How about
Nick Anderson?
Kendall Gill?
Kendall Gill, Nick Anderson, Steve Bardo.
Oh, there you go. Right. Did Lionel Hollins go to Illinois? No.
Lionel. Oh, the original L Train, the former Sixers guard, Portland Trailblazers guard.
Yeah. Where did he go?
I don't know where he went.
All right. Well, I tried, but I definitely got Kendall Gill on that. He was
number 13, by the way.
Yes, a shooting guard who was not very good at shooting.
No, that's right. He's a combo guard. Correct.
All right. So DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is putting new customers in the center of the action. All you got to do is bet $1 on any tournament game. And if your team wins, you win $100. It's just that simple. $1 becomes $100 because you get 100-to-1 odds. You pick any college basketball team that's still in the hunt for your shot at winning $100. And all it takes is a $1 bet and that team winning their next game. There's no better way to put your college basketball knowledge to the test than to put your money where your mouth is with DraftKings Sportsbook. And don't worry if college basketball isn't for you. DraftKings Sportsbook offers daily odds boosts on pro basketball, hockey, golf, so much more. We got opening day. I'm excited about it for MLB. That's my favorite day of the year. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. So download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use that promo code ITB when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 if the college basketball of your team of your choosing pulls off the win. And that's code ITB to turn $1 into $100 for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You got to be 21, live in Pennsylvania, new customer. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. Good news, because we've been talking about this for a little bit now, like what's going to happen with OTAs. I still think that we don't have all the pieces filled in, right? But we do know that the NFL has told teams to conduct meetings virtually, correct? But
they might be
on practices, real practices.
It won't be the whole. Yeah, they don't anticipate it'll be the entire offseason. So they're going to ease some of the restrictions, and that's good. But again, they don't know. They didn't give the time frame. So nothing is finalized for this. This is from the story, the AP story. Nothing is finalized regarding the spring and summer programs. In the NFL memo, the teams were told that they should be prepared to conduct meetings virtually at least early phase of the program. As was expressed during Tuesday's meeting, we do not anticipate a duplication of last season's virtual workout program. Great, because I'm telling you, my friend, The second-year players, Reagor, Hightower, Watkins at receiver. Hurts. Oh my God, yeah. If assuming he's the quarterback, if he's the starter, Joe Flacco, because he's got to learn this offense.
Yep.
The new coaching staff, we're going to say. Okay.
Now, do they still have the rule where the teams that have a new coaching staff always got an extra week of OTAs, right? Yeah. Yeah. And
they also get in early to training camp, by the way.
Right. Exactly. Right. This is this has to be a breath of fresh air for the Eagles. I mean, a lot of teams definitely, but especially for the Eagles, who not only have the new coaching staff, but as you were just mentioning, a whole slew of second-year players who really need to develop. I mean, if these guys do not develop well, forget it. I don't want to say it doesn't matter what they do in this and next year draft, but you really need last year's draft to start to kind of mature now and make some impact this year, more of an impact than they did last year. Got to have it.
Yes, and anytime they get on the field together, particularly because you have a new coaching staff, new offensive, defensive schemes, the defensive scheme is going to be completely different. We outlined this literally like within 48 hours after the staff was hired. We kind of went in, if you want to go back, folks, because we keep getting questions about this. We've discussed what the scheme's going to look like, defensive scheme. We have a pretty good. Geoff had some awesome stuff about the line going to, they're going to shift the line a little bit.
A lot of twists, stunts, loops, things like that.
So we've outlined that pretty well. It's going to be more of a West Coast offense in terms of routes and so forth. So it's going to be different. I'm hoping we can get access to go to OTAs just to. I learned so much from going to OTAs over the years. I remember Jeremy Macklin's first practice in 2009 and Andy going after him a little bit because Macklin didn't run real hard on his first route.
Yep.
And he chewed him out. And I just remember thinking, okay, look, it's typical stuff. You want to set an example. And I know you were at this one. It was Vic's first practice. And Andy, I'm not going to repeat what he said because I didn't know Andy to be salty like that. He jumped Vic a little bit. Vic, whatever Vic didn't move with alacrity, as Al Michaels would say.
Yeah.
And Andy lit him up, and I was just like, okay, all right, I get it. He set the example, and we were like, we all looked at each other. Ooh, oh boy, okay.
Every once in a while, I'd say, Andy, man, I don't see that side to you a whole lot, and he would go, well, I'm Irish, right? I'm redheaded. All right.
Redheaded,
so we got this reputation.
Ike Reese will tell some stories, man.
Yeah.
Andy, he's told some stories about, Andy. Andy could get after it when he needed to be. And Doug Peterson, other than the between the Atlanta and Minnesota game during their Super Bowl run, when he went after his coaches and players, where the ball hit the ground, as explained to me. It might have been Jeffrey. I don't know who the receiver was. Dropped the football at practice, and no one he's looking what are you guys doing? Go get that ball. You don't know if it was a fumble or drop pass. I guess he lit him up because he just couldn't understand what are you looking at the football for.
Yep.
And he went off. I heard.
I do remember one year specific. Wow, this is going to be a story-laden podcast.
Yeah, I love it. We don't do this much. This is fun. Folks, bear with us. This is fun.
I think it was like 2007. When the Eagles finished 500, right? They were 5-8, and then they won their last 3. It was Donovan coming back from the ACL in 2006. Defensively, it might have been that year. It might not. I can't remember anymore. But 2007, they didn't have a lot of turnovers on defense, and Jim Johnson. He would be the first to tell you that sometimes that stuff is not, it's out of your control.
Is it cyclic?
Turnover? No, that's Marty Morningweg with the cyclic. But yeah, but he definitely expected his team to be a little bit more turnover savvy in the following year. And at training camp, if a ball hit the ground as an incomplete pass, but there still weren't 5 Eagles jumping on it as if it were a fumble anyway, he was in their grill. I had never seen training camp like that. I think it was 08. It could have been before that anyway. Probably not. But he was you would see just a ball hit the ground, and any other day and in a camp that's okay, it's an incomplete pass. All of a sudden, for 5-6 straight days, you see a ball hit the ground on an incomplete pass, and five corners and safeties are just jumping on it like they're like a rugby scrum, and we're all looking at wait, do they think that you can? That's not a fumble. What are they doing? But it was every single, and Jim was lighting them up and making.
I love that guy.
He was.
It's funny. he gave the best press conferences because he didn't care. He would say, I would love when he finished a press conference. He goes, "Oh, I did it again. I said something I shouldn't have said."
Yes, he did.
And I wonder if Boyko or Annie got in his. Well, obviously Derek probably would do it, but
yeah,
I love that. He was such a good man.
He was a great guy,
special guy.
Rest
He
in
was
peace, Jim Johnson.
Did you ever talk to him privately?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What was it? What would you
not
guys
a
talk
lot,
about?
but I had a few times where I was
Okay.
able to just yeah. No, very like he's a very good, nice guy, which sometimes doesn't come across in the disgruntled guy type. You know,
Right,
just
he'd be
like
gruff.
a
He'd be
crusty,
gruff.
curmudgeonly gruff.
Yeah.
That's what you want out of your defensive coordinator, right? You want him to be just like Jim Johnson. So it's fine. But no, he was good natured. He's fun. He's actually funny. So was Big Red.
Oh, you could sense of humor.
Big Red's funny. Big Red's funny. People don't realize that. But if you're, just chatting with him, he's actually pretty funny. He has personality. But as we were talking about the OTAs, Adam, and we were naming like the Hurts and the Hightower and Reagor, I tell you this. The one guy who really needs these OTAs, if this guy has any shot whatsoever to compete for playing time and to start, he needs these OTAs. You know what I'm talking? It's Davion Taylor. I mean, if this guy,
I was gonna say Andre Dillard, okay.
Dillard too, but even Dillard will probably get to compete with Mailata just based on being a first round pick. But the again, we've talked about the bridge that this guy has to gap to understand the game to begin with, and now he's got an entirely new defensive scheme and a linebacker role where you're gonna have to have great spatial awareness and take the right drops in zone. Like this guy to have a prayer to be ready to be to get on the field needs the OTAs maybe more than anybody I can think of on the team.
He does, and that linebacker crew, which is going to be all new, other than Singleton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially the post-draft minicamp, if there is one. I'm not expecting them to be cleared to do it then. And plus, the COVID numbers all of a sudden are spiking like crazy.
I know. It's strange. It's a
very
strange time because you see like optimism with people getting vaccines and optimism with this idea that OTAs can go on, but then you see rising cases in some areas. So, I mean, the Roger Goodell said he's expecting what?
Yeah, I'm just going to say, here's the quote. We're discussing plans to welcome fans across the country at all stadiums. All of us want to see everyone back. Want to see our fans back. Football's not the same without fans. Yes. And we expect to have full stadiums in the upcoming season. I don't know why he said that.
Here's the thing about this.
I love him saying it, but I wish he wouldn't have because with the numbers going up.
But not only that, Adam, and look, I'm sure he does speak with the right people and he has a lot of political clout. But the bottom line is, it's not his decision. It's the governors of the states that
exactly right. Good point. Yeah.
Like he has absolutely zero say over what the governors are going to do. Yeah. I mean, I don't mind him being optimistic and painting a good picture, but you don't want to cross the line and say something's definitely going to happen.
Exactly. Like you said, I wouldn't mind if he would have said we're very optimistic based on our information.
Yeah.
That we're gonna have full stadiums because he said we expect to have full stadiums, but he didn't say it like I just did.
Right.
We'll see. We'll see. Let's start with getting players back on the field in OTAs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if the veterans show up or not. The young guys, the first and second and third year players, they got to learn a new scheme. It's not easy, man. Well, you feel for the kids last year because they didn't have an off season. I just don't know how you do it. I just don't.
All right. Before we get out of here, I want to ask you one last thing. Cause we glossed over it real quick.
Right.
When we spoke to Greg Cosell for Inside the Draft with Greg Cosell, he did a great breakdown of DeVonta Smith and Jaylen Waddle, the two Alabama wide receivers. And it really has had me think, first of all, I'm going to stand firm. I don't think either of them are going to be an Eagle. I just don't. But I was wondering if you had an inkling on which one you thought might be, after hearing Greg break it down, would you rather have one guy over the other? Or
not close.
You'd rather have Jaylen Waddle, right?
Oh, yeah. And I someone had asked me on the message board, a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I got this from two coaches. And it's the funny thing is, one of the coaches compared Waddle to Tyreek Hill, and that's exactly what Greg said.
Yep.
On our show. And and the way that Greg broke it down, I mean, I'm not going to give answers to the test here. You got to hear Greg's breakdown. Everyone can understand what he's saying. He's not talking over our heads. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I understood it.
Mm-hmm.
It was fantastic. And I love the way he broke it down. And now the one I'd asked the receivers coach, said, hey, where do you see him lining up? Because Waddle could play X or Z. It doesn't matter. He can play anything you want him to play. He's that good. I was like, okay.
That's interesting. I've gotten contrasting information about that because he has not played against a lot of press coverage.
But you could teach him, though. You could go to the next level.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But it's going to have to be something that, a lot of receivers have to deal with that. But I don't know that he starts off at X. He may have to work his way out over there.
But I would say this, though. I don't see Waddle, based on the coaches I've spoken with, and I'm talking to personnel guys now about it. I'd be very surprised if he makes it to 12. Smith certainly could.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles are actually in a pretty good spot. I'd outlined this our previous show. They should get if they stay at 12, and I wouldn't bet my house on it. I'd be renting with that one. But if they stay at 12, they're going to get a good player. The list of corners, they'll get one of the good corners. I don't think Horn makes it. Surtain or Horn or Smith, or again, I don't think Waddle makes it. But there's going to be a good player for them.
It's a great guessing game. I was just speaking with an NFL personnel guy today who told me he doesn't think Surtain makes it to 12. So,
really?
I mean,
okay.
At some point, though, the numbers, like somebody's got to make it to 12 because if 4 quarterbacks go and maybe even 5.
Oh, they need. It's a great point. The Eagles really do need. They need Mac Jones to go before they do in a big way.
Yeah, they need Mac, Fields, and Lance to be somewhere.
Lance is not good. Yeah. If I'll tell you what, now I was wrong about Tebow going the first round.
Mm-hmm.
If Trey Lance goes to the top 10, I'd be shocked.
Really shocked?
Shocked.
Wow.
Absolutely shocked.
Okay. Right.
I've got some pretty good.
I was gonna say you say that with conviction. So all right, I'm gonna.
Now again, look,
I know that you know as well as anybody that teams just reach for quarterbacks. So
I know, but I'm just telling you.
Okay.
You're not. Here's the way I'm going to put Trey Lance. If you're not going to take him unless you're secure in your job.
Okay.
Because he is a project. Patrick Mahomes. Now I'm not saying he's Patrick Mahomes. So there's some things that he does which are really interesting. Cosell, when we get to, we'll get to with Greg in the coming weeks in his breakdowns about Lance. He is the farthest away. Look, hey, I did GM tell me he's not going to be ready week 1. He goes, I don't know who's going to draft him. He goes, just based on tape study.
Right.
Because you love the kid. You love everything about him, but he's just not going to be ready. He doesn't see it.
Right.
He said he's got a long release. You only played the one game this season. You like the character, but from a football developmental standpoint, he's the farthest away. Look, hey, Mahomes didn't play year 1. That's okay.
Well,
but
that's what I'm saying. It makes me wonder if that opens up the door for a team that does have a GM with job security, like the Steelers or Bill Belichick with the Patriots, to want to trade.
No, I said on the first round, but I don't think he's going to the top 10. No way.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe not top 10. You can trade up to like 11, 12. Well, who's the only team that would take him after 8? Like maybe the Broncos at 9.
Yes.
Where the Panthers are at 8, right?
Look, they all need quarterbacks. I don't know who these teams like.
Yeah.
But again, you better be secure in your job because it's like Chicago taking them.
Mm-hmm.
I think they pick at 20. They're not taking Trey Lance because that team's got to win.
Right.
Now I understand Andy Dalton. They expect him to start this season. Okay, as we speak here, that's our expectation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think we all know that they're going to draft a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they would draft a guy like Lance just because he needs further development. So we'll see. I'm just trying to.
You could see the Steelers doing it in a heartbeat, right?
Yes, because Big Ben is the guy.
Absolutely.
It's a great point. That when you draft a player, you got to know what he is when you think he'll be ready. We know that quarterbacks. I use the Jags said Blake Bortles wouldn't play year 1. You know how that went. He said Wentz wouldn't be ready week 1. He might be the third quarterback. You know how that went. I understand the circumstance of trading Sam Bradford, but still, they didn't think he would. You go name after name after name, other than Jordan Love, because Rodgers. These guys just don't sit anymore.
Yeah, no. By the way, I double dog dare Chris Ballard of the Colts to draft a quarterback in the first 3 rounds. I triple dog dare him to do it and see what happens with Carson Wentz. That would be funny, wouldn't it?
Oh my! Can you imagine if you drafted one in the second round?
I dare you, Chris.
Oh no, I would not want to. Hey, and then he'd have to call him like Roseman said he did.
Yeah.
I guess Howie said after the draft that they called him.
Yeah.
And they let him
called
know.
Him all right.
Yeah, man, we have to, we do these theme shows in the off season. I think we did like last June. We'll have to go back. You and I have to go back and see what we did. We should do a Carson. What happened with Carson show?
Oh, okay.
Because we've done little bits and pieces here and there of what we had heard.
Yeah, we can gather some more intel and really.
Do you know what ESPN on the NFL Insider Show? We did a Chip Kelly show.
I remember that. I do remember.
Unbelievable.
That, yeah.
They came to me and Schefter, me and whoever. It might have been Adam too. I don't remember, but they ran in our production meeting and said, "Hey, Chip is so controversial. You think we could do a show?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!"
What a lightning rod for a guy who coached 5 years and never won a playoff game. I mean, that's unbelievable.
But he was so polarizing.
He was. He definitely was.
Oh my God! Who do you think is more polarizing, Roseman or Chip Kelly?
I look forward to that 30 for 30 someday.
The Roseman years.
I look forward to you being on you being interviewed for it.
All of us. Look, anyone who covered Andy here, like they used Howard Eskin, NFL Films did for something. I don't remember what it was. I'm like, why didn't the hell did they?
I don't know. Some guy wrote a book about Chip Kelly and asked me if I wanted to be in it.
Oh, that Marks. I can't remember his last name.
Yeah, I can't either. But I declined. I didn't want to be a part of the story. That's not my.
Yeah, but I just wanted to
tell.
But I found Chip to be so fascinating because I was working for Dave Spadaro then.
Yeah,
and I got to know him, and I found that he's like an everyday guy, and I know he's complicated and all that. But no, as you know, no one got to know him super well. It just. Yeah. But you know what's funny? Before we get out of here, folks don't remember this probably, but his relationship with the media here. Would you not agree? You covered him closer than I did. Would you not agree that it was actually a decent relationship in terms of?
I had no problem with Chip. I had no problem with Chip. Yeah. Just that from a he was I think there were times he was condescending, but he was able to do it in a joking manner. So it was a lighthearted exchange. I mean, he had a few tense exchanges, but not that's par for the course in this city. But
yes, his favorite thing, he loved 80s movies. So when Tony Romo, I think he was going to maybe did Dallas clinch a playoff spot or something? I don't know what it was. And the rumors were that they might rest him, and Chip goes, "I'm not going to fall for the banana tailpipe trick." Yeah. And I saw him at practice, the coach. I know what that's about. Beverly Hills Cop.
Yep.
And he smiled. He walked away because he had to know his sense of humor. It's so a different guy.
He was full of analogies. Cortez. It's like burning. The boats.
About bury the
college
boat,
and
the boats. I am where my feet are.
There are a lot of Chipisms. Yeah, be where your feet are. Growth mindset versus I forget what is it? Growth mindset versus man. And this is actually a business. A lot of corporations use the same thing. Okay. And that was Kip. He was coming from Silicon Valley, so he was up on all the trendy things that progressive corporations were doing. But fixed mindset versus growth mindset and all that stuff. All right, that's enough. It's been great, wonderful. I've enjoyed the trip down. Yeah, people are probably. You remember the movie Airplane, where the guy tells a story to everybody, and at the end they just want to off themselves. Yeah, I think that's basically where we're getting at in this podcast. So that'll do it.
Got all the info in there, but listen,
no, we did. It was
a podcast. I read up on this stuff. People like stories, like the Eric Bischoff's. Eric Bischoff's that guy from the wrestling promoter.
Yeah,
83 weeks. I am so glued to his stories. I don't want to hear about anything else other than stories. It's a great podcast, folks. If you've never heard of it, it's called 83 Weeks.
Yeah.
It's about the Monday Night Wars against Vince. He let it work for Vince McMahon, but it's so phenomenal. The storytelling is just it brought me back to my 30s or late 20s.
Well, we'll probably have to do that in the summer, like late June, first 2 weeks of July before training camp, when the hard news is bare. We'll just take a couple of trips down memory lane.
Man.
Yeah, sure.
Well, if we don't get access to OTAs,
that too. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. As always, thanks to our producer, Hunter Brody. Check out his work on his YouTube channel. It's called Sports Talk with Broads, and his Twitter account is @Broads81. So make sure you follow that. And as always, real quick, please check out my other podcast that I do on the Phillies with Frank Close. He's the 97.3.
Why is Naris a closer?
Insider. Don't get me started. Yeah, but we answer that question. So check out the Powder Blue podcast with me and Frank Close, where we do everything Phillies. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.